Now you can see a little better on how mushroomed this weight is, and I was looking at the curve of this, and it's really not worn as bad as I thought it was going to be for having such damage to this weight. Same goes with this side here, and just looking at the angles of it the way it is, it seems pretty natural. So the only idea I can come up with on why it's this bad is maybe over time. You can see there's about an 1/8 inch, kind of an 1/8 inch gap here on this round part where it's almost pushed in. I'm thinking maybe over time, with the clutch constantly pulling on these, that it just kind of sucked this up a little more, and there is some slop in it. You can see probably hear it too. So that's the only explanation I can come up with. Otherwise, they're not worn down terribly bad. I just think that these lead weights have just seen better days. I'm going to be working on this front shaft here. This is the one with this flange. It has the cracked piece for the grease, and I'm going to have to unbolt the 4 bolts and the sprocket and axle, and it all has to come out just so I can get this piece on. Unlike the other axles, I'm unable to pound it out, so I'm hoping this one comes out a little bit easier than the prior two. I haven't reinstalled this one yet because I don't want to get the chains tight to have to loosen them again to get this one off. Alright, this is the shaft we have to get out. It's going to be a couple Allen head screws holding everything in, and then the shaft should slide out, and then at that point we can fit our socket in there to get the bearing out, which is hooked up to that flange. Alright, so I'm having difficulty getting that Allen screw kind of in the center of the screen there. It's in there really tight, so I just heated it up nice and hot, and I gotta wait for it to cool down. On the actual shaft here with the sprocket, there was no Allen bolt in there. It's missing. So I think that's another sign someone has been in here at some point in time. While I'm waiting for that to cool down, I'm gonna run a bead on the bottom of this muffler. You can tell kind of by the dark soot that it has a little bit of an exhaust leak. You can actually kind of see the space in there. So I'm going to just clean it up with the wire wheel, run a bead on it, and we should be ready to go. I have removed the Allens, and the Allen key that's supposed to be on that sprocket is not there. So with that being said, I have to get the shaft out. There isn't a whole lot of room though, being that the motor's right there. So I'm going to try my hardest to just kind of hammer it out. Hopefully it works. Alright, so that took a little bit of work. We ended up getting it out. I had to beat it up pretty bad, but I think it'll still be okay. So I gotta get the bearing off of here. Should just come right off, and then this new flange will sit just like this one. Today is Sunday, and my dad's gonna be stopping by here in just a couple minutes. He wants to check out the Argo.
B, because it's 60 inches wide. So.
Oh, okay. That's the difference, huh?
Yeah.
The Allen key right here by my finger is rounded off in there, and I need to get this whole bearing assembly off. We're actually going to replace this bearing because a chunk of it is cracked. Wherever it hides, right here. This whole part's cracked off. So I have to get it off though, and being that that's seized, I'm just going to use a drill bit and drill out that little set screw and then go from there. Now I've been going through on the wiring, just trying to figure out what goes to what. This used to have a cab on it. The cab, we had a fan that would circulate the heat, so like this wire here has no home. I can't actually find another wire that it would go to. So I think that's part of that. The second issue I was trying to figure out was winch was not working, and that's why I was kind of digging to see what goes where. And what I was able to come up with is this switch is bad. You can see I'm just moving it around, and if you get it just right, it does work. Almost. So, yeah, now it's dead again. So I think that this has just been subject to getting rained on and everything else, and it's just, as you can see, there it goes one way, but not the other. Not the other way. Now you got nothing again. Come on. There you go. So that's just kind of the issue that I was running into with the wiring, and I was trying to figure out. And another little note is I'm starting to adjust the camera manually, being that I noticed in the past couple of videos it has a hard time focusing in the lower light that's in the garage. So anyways, the switch might work out. It's a $2 switch, so I'm just going to replace that. My dad mounted that heavy plate over the electric winch portion because when we're going through the woods or just brush in general, you know, it would hit up against here, but with that cover, it kept this safe, and that way none of the connections ever got busted off or anything like that. So with that off, I can kind of see more of what's going on. I'm actually trying to get it to release some of this line. I can get it to go in but not out. So I'm trying to get it to release some line. That way I can measure it and get some new line put on here, because this is pretty bad. Probably a hook too, since that looks pretty beat up also. So here is the winch in all of its glory. You can see how it mounted. It essentially was sitting like this, if you will. This part here was on top, and then this angled part was on the bottom. Oh, it's heavy. So I'm going to have to do some testing here. I think what I'm going to do is on the box up above, I'm going to hook up some sort of, maybe I got a light bar somewhere, and I'm going to use a jumper wire and connect both ways on the switch. And if that light bar turns on both ways, then I know that this junction box is good, and it's probably the switch that's bad. Okay, so here's our little light bar. Middle wire here, which is always on. So there is one way. And so we know we got power the one way. Bingo. We got the other way, it should be nothing. Yep. Okay. So that tells us that this box works as it should. So here's your brushes, and look at that, we just that is interesting how that's turning. And then in here, so in here you can see the hole in the center, and then the magnets that go around it. And this actually looks very clean. So as you guys seen, I took the top off and it actually looked really good. There was a little bit of corrosion on one of these connection points up top. Other than that, inside looked just fine. So we're going to reconnect it and just see if maybe it was a connection problem or something. And from there, we'll move on to the next step. I'm going to see if we can get some of this line out of here. We have our winch line taken off. I measured it. It's about 25 feet worth of line, and it's definitely seen better days. You can probably get an idea. You know, the first about 8 feet of this is bad. The rest of it's okay, but it's rusty and pretty wound up. So we'll go and get 25 feet of line and a new hook, because this hook is garbage. You can see the little things falling off. You kind of need that sometimes. So we'll go get new winch line. In the meantime though, over the next couple days I'm going to get that winch re-welded up because the welds are cracked on it. Alright, the parts came in. Let's take a peek at what we got. Got a new solenoid. We know that's bad. This one here looks to be a different style. This is a original OEM, so I'm hoping that it'll be a little bit better quality than the one that's in there. Ooh, big old bag here. This here is the cork gasket that goes on the outside. Kind of keeps the water out, and then inside of it, it's hard to see, but there's the set screws for the front sprocket that it was actually missing from, and then 3 tiny screws which go to the clutch. Here are the sliders, and just like I thought, I'll zoom you in here, just like I thought, the other ones really were not worn that bad, but I'm thinking that they were worn just enough to where it was an issue. So we're in there anyways. Let's get these 3 replaced. Here are the weights, 225s. They're not all mushroomed out on the top. 3 of those. Here are the new bearings. One is for the front shaft, one is for the center shaft, inner and outer. See, there's the part numbers on there. And these ones here, AM aftermarket. So these ones were about $20 cheaper, and I couldn't really see a difference within them. So we're gonna rock with these aftermarket ones. Alright, here's a side-by-side comparison. Really doesn't look all that bad, but it must have been worn down just enough, especially the head of this weight. Those 3 little springs are right here on the back side, and it's actually for noise dampening. So even that little spring might have been worn out, causing these to move around too much. But we're going to get it all slapped back together here. Okay, this will be the first start in week and a half. And I got the new clutch parts on there, got the exhaust welded up, so let's see if it sounds any better. Okay, so through the magic of editing, it is now 2 days later. It took me a really long time to get these axles in. There's a lot to them, and the middle one's brand new, the axle's new, and the inner bearing is new. The outer one, the front one here, the flange piece, get this to focus. The flange piece is new, and the gasket's new. Oh, one thing I have not done yet is on the inside, there's the set screws on the sprockets. I have not tightened those yet because I need to slowly idle these tires and watch the chains to see if, they need to be straightened out and stuff like that. So that's what I'm about to do. I have to put the new belt on, and then I'm going to start it up and just ever so gently idle it. Clunking noise you're hearing, that's the brake pads on this side. They're moving, and that might have actually been some of what the clunk was also. See it moving? That's that kind of clunking noise. See, that side has the pins in it. This side does not. Okay, you guys can kind of get an idea here. Those pads did have a little bit of wear, but they're actually doing pretty good. What I'm thinking happened, because my dad was saying before how he had such a hard time trying to turn left. And the left side is the side without pins. So what I'm thinking happened is when you would hit that left brake, being there's no pins, those pads would just kind of move around on them, give them a little bit of issue. So that's the only thing I can think of, otherwise it seems to be working. We installed the new brake pads, and it's actually a really interesting design. The rotor, right there, has a hole in it, and that hole gives you access to the Allen head screw that holds that booster on there, I guess. And it's kind of a goofy design, but it actually worked really, really well. Left side feels a little bit lagging, like something just isn't quite right. There's really no way to know until we put the wheels on it, but let's start it up and test them and see if it's any quieter. Alright, today is Friday. I have this evening off from work. I took some vacation just to hang out. It's almost 30 degrees. It hasn't been this warm in a long time, and the songbirds are out. You can hear them. Spring is on its way. So, this thing will adjust. There we go. What I thought I would do is I'm going to let this thing run for a little while. I did pick up a few things at the store today, so I'll show you guys that. I think we're going to get the wheels back on today. Okay, so these are the goodies I picked up at the store. I actually got them at Fleet Farm. But the old winch cable really had seen better days. You can see how it's kind of, I don't know, like untwisting, if you will. That there, I believe, is 3/16 line. the weight rating on a cable that big is about 850 pounds. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, this machine is about 900 pounds. If you do the math, it doesn't add up for a winch line. So what I opted for was this one here, which is a 1,400 pound line, max load, and it's a little bigger, it's a quarter, so hopefully I can fit this onto the spool for the winch. I also picked up a new hook because this old one's, the clicker was just garbage on it, and once they go bad like this, it's not like the hook is bad, but it's just such a pain to deal with having this clicker always be junk. You know, for a couple of bucks, I think it's a worthwhile thing. And then the thimble set, so it wraps through the hook, as you can see, and then the wire won't fray. Unfortunately, this is a 3/16, and I had 3/16 line at first, and then I upgraded to a quarter, and I forgot to upgrade this, but the quarter should still work on that line just fine. So yeah, oh yeah. And I got some seafoam because you guys kept bothering me about it. No, I did plan on getting some of this, and yeah, so we got some seafoam to put in that tank as well. So we are nearing kind of the final stuff. I saved the fun stuff for last, which is welding the basket and the putting everything fun on there. So alright, I have the winch reinstalled, did some welding and got it all straightened out, this top piece. Now, I haven't bought a new switch for it yet. I've had a hard time finding one, but I am going to run the new cable onto it, get the new hook put on there and everything, so. Alright, I have more supplies. So a lot of people were commenting and saying that, hey, get a group 51 battery. And I did some research and it was right. The 51 series battery, which has 500 cold cranking amps, is an upgraded size for the Argo. And, oh, okay, more winch line. Yeah, the winch line that I picked up was indeed the wrong size. But it's the wrong size, even though that's a 2,000 pound winch. They put only a 3/16 line on there, or sorry, a 3/16 cable. I said it wrong before too, but yeah. So this is what I got. It's gonna fit, and the reason I knew that one was wrong is I couldn't put it into the lockable spot. So I had to like trim down the wires, a couple of the strands, and I didn't like that because a lot of times you spool that thing all the way out. This thing is ready for a test drive. There's these couple items I needed because if I take it for a test drive and it dies, it needs to get back on the trailer. So it needs to be able to winch itself back up on there because I'm not going to have two vehicles this time. It needs to have a battery. I've just been jumping it the whole time. So it needs to have a battery. That way, you know, it can winch itself up under its own power. Plus it needs to be able to start, yada yada. So that's kind of the reasoning behind it. Alright, this is the moment of truth. When I turn on the key, the brake cooling fan should kick on. I'll just try to turn it over and see what happens. We're good. Right there. All right, we got everything cleared off of this trailer and all the stuff up front cleared out. I also got the hood on. The little lock mechanism is missing though, so I'll have to order that. We got these panels in. Now I can see what gear I am going into. These just have little locking pins. There's like a hole in there. I'll show you on the back one because it's better to see. So right there is the cotter pin. Right there is the cotter pin, and that holds it down. I need to get some washers for it, but the ones up front are really hard to get just because of the way the floor pan things sit. They're curled up right now, and it's so cold out here they really don't want to cooperate. So we will get them eventually, but as of right now I got to fill up these tires with air because they only have like 4 psi. They need about 10 psi a piece. I'm going to check the trailer tires also, and then we're going to run this thing up to the gas station and put some gas in it. If I remember right, this thing towed really weird because all the weight is forward of the axle. It's not very centered. That was because it was the only way to pull this machine up was from the back, the hitch there. And now without that basket on there, it looks a little shorter, but I gotta figure out a better way to get this thing towing better because it really just doesn't tow good the way it sits. I'll have to move it on the trailer or something.